how can we attract abundance in our life or attract scarcity in our life? Well, if you think about it, if you're communicating in a scarce way and you're acting in a scarce way, what type of results are you going to get? Scarce results, right? And what kind of belief system will those results reinforce? A scarcity belief system. So what's the repetitive thoughts going through my head based on that belief system? A scarce repetitive thoughts. And around and around and around we go. So how do you break the cycle?
Welcome to the Spear and Clover podcast, the show that helps teach you the art of crushing your goals and the discipline of loving your life while you do it. I'm your host, Jason Skisic, the Entrepreneurial Evangelist, and I'm on a mission to share the stories of visionaries just like you. If you're enjoying these episodes, please take a moment to subscribe, like, and review. This is the absolute best way to help us grow the show and bring on more and more interesting guests. Today's guest is Aaron Hinde, co-founder of LIFEAID, the company responsible for FITAID, GolfAid, PartyAid, and other lifestyle-focused healthy beverages. In this conversation, Aaron gives us insights he's learned as a lifelong entrepreneur who's seen it all and still loves showing up every day. Please welcome Aaron Hinde. How you doing, Aaron?
Jason, good to see you, bud.
Man, it's great to see you too, man. I'm really excited about this conversation. So for those who don't know you, Aaron, can you tell us a little bit about your company and what it is that you guys do?
Yeah, Aaron Hinde. Most people know me from, LifeAid beverage company here in Santa Cruz, or our FITAID drink is our most popular, big in the fitness space. We've been involved in CrossFit and general fitness for over a decade now. And, before that, I was a sports chiropractor here in Santa Cruz. So developed a bit of a name for myself there, and now able to, serve people's health needs on a much broader scale than before.
Yeah. And you and I had met at a mastermind originally, I believe. We were both a part of the Barbell Mastermind, which was the Barbell Shrug guys, of course. And for me, that was like the seed that got planted for me as far as, fellowship and mentorship in a mastermind setting. For you, was that a new thing for you guys, or what role did that play for you guys, the masterminding stuff?
Yeah, I had been participating in those type of events for quite some time. I mean, that was a major pivot point in my life, was attaching myself to events and mentors and really looking at, people that I considered successful and emulating them and basically paying them to, get an inside scoop on what they were doing. And, events are a great way to do that. Like if you want to connect with somebody that, you want to be your mentor, the best way to do that is to pay them. And what product or service are they selling that allows you a foot in the door? And so I started doing that early on when I was a sports chiropractor. And one of our, best mentors here at LifeAid and good friends of ours here today was, as a result of that, Ben Altadonna, who brilliant marketer and taught us a lot and continues to serve on our advisory board. But, that put that off in that direction. And I've got to meet amazing people over the years, from some of the best marketers in the world, copywriters, business coaches, entrepreneurs, you name it. It's really opened up just a whole new world for me.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I would agree. I've personally been involved in, probably a dozen different groups that are similar, and know many people who have done the same. And I don't know anybody who's lost money on those experiences, on those insights, on building that network and surrounding themselves with people that are either peers or even aspirational, doing better than they are.
Yeah, I just was tallying it up the other day. I've spent more in kind of mastermind groups and events than I actually spend on formal education. I just tipped over, and I've got 9 years of post-high school education, $260,000 in student loans at one point in time. So, quite a bit of money spent there.
Wow.
But I'm happy to say I've spent more in investing truly in myself with, with things that really move the needle.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'd have to do that exercise as well. So one of the things that really interests me about you is I've known a lot of entrepreneurs that have been successful in like a charismatic service space, whether it's brick and mortar gyms, chiropractors, coaching, nutrition. And I've known a few people that have been really successful in a product space. But I don't know if I've ever met anybody like you who was successful in a service community type space and then made a successful transition into a product. Can you tell us a little bit, like, what do you attribute your success kind of making that transition from?
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I've never really heard it put that way before because, I look at a lot of entrepreneurial friends of mine. And you're right. You kind of have the personality entrepreneur, right? Like maybe an Aubrey Marcus or somebody like that really crosses that chasm well. But a lot of Tony Robbins, great example, right?
Sure.
There is no Tony Robbins without Tony Robbins. So he is the centerpiece, right? He is the person that drives it. I could kick the bucket tomorrow and LIFEAID will live on. Now, a lot of our not a lot, all of our, products and our culture and everything is a direct representative of Ryan and myself and our, imprint that we've put on this. And so it's not separated from us. It's not two separate things, although the model that we're living in now, I really do like because it's more scalable, it's more sellable, and it will, live on in some capacity, whether I'm around or not.
Yeah, that's very insightful. And I think that's something that guys like me, and probably formerly guys like you, looked over the fence with some envy, where it's like, yeah, man, I wish I didn't have to be the charismatic central figure of this thing all the time. For me, I know that it's never taken energy from me to do that, but the scalability of that is just it's a challenge.
Well, and typically on the former, you're talking about a fee for service model, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a gym owner, and you're physically coaching classes or you're doing new member orientations or whatever it is, if you're not there, you're not typically making money, So, and it was the same thing in my chiropractic profession, when I wasn't there, I wasn't making money, and it created a lot of stress. And it's funny, I just got back from a week in Mexico, a working vacation, if you will.
Sure.
And my wife and I had a long conversation like, wow, for 10 years when you were a chiropractor, we never went on vacation for more than 4 days, and most of it was 3 days if we were to go somewhere. And the reason for that is, when I was gone, it was very stressful for me because I was not making any money. I was typically paying a lot of money for wherever we were going, and my bills were still coming in. So, that didn't go away. So it was like this imbalance where you're really locked and enslaved to doing the thing that I do that produced the income. And when I wasn't doing that thing, the income wasn't being produced. It didn't slow down. It went to zero, right? It went to zero production. So now, I can wake up in the morning and we've sold cans all over the world. We've done significant volume and revenue in Australia and in Europe and on the East Coast of the United States, all without me, while I'm sleeping. And I really like that model a lot better.
Yeah, I can understand why. So there's a word that gets thrown around about entrepreneurs, and gurus and coaches always love to use it. And genuinely, I listened to a couple of little things with you on it and just thinking about it, conversations and things that I know you've done. Genuinely, I think you may embody this better than most, and that is abundance mindset. And I think that you really seem to embody that in a very real way, and I'll tell you why. The first things I've remembered about you were, number one, as a chiropractor, you had a terrific referral program where you were giving things out to those folks that were helping you to spread the word about your business. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, 32 new patients every month for 10 years straight, all by referral. So yeah, if you're, say, a small gym owner, you'd love to be getting 32 new members in every month, right?
Yeah, that's insane. If you're a service business or a brick and mortar business like a chiro or a gym owner, your eyes just popped out, right? Yep. And then the second thing I remember is I'm a gym owner. I'm a CrossFit gym owner. I've owned a gym for going on 12 years. And I cannot tell you how excited I was the first day I got my free FITAID fridge. It was, you're selling me a product and I feel like I'm getting something so much more than just buying the product. And I think that was such a smart move. And then if I'm not mistaken, wasn't there a story about you guys handing out FITAID at the CrossFit Games one year out of backpacks and stuff like that?
That's right. Year one, we snuck some cold cans in, and we're getting cans in the right people's hands for sure.
And I think, just to put a finer point on that, I just think so many people want to talk about this abundance mindset of putting things out into the universe and just doing and providing value and helping people, and that it'll come back to you in spades. And I just think it's really, really difficult, especially early on in a business's life, to actually live by that. And it seems to me like you've done that. Maybe if you could kind of expound on that a little bit.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point there, because when you're first starting out, you you typically don't have abundance in anything, especially if you're bootstrapping, right? There are no resources that are abundant, But what is abundant? You typically are looking at, especially starting out, you're looking at two concepts. You're looking at abundance of resources, typically financial resources, which are typically not there when you're starting. But what do you have? You have an abundance of time, right? And as you become more successful, it flips. You have an abundance of financial resources, but not an abundance of time. So you got to look at, well, what do you truly have abundance in, and how can you use that abundance to provide, more value to anyone and everyone around you? So one thing I would tell, chiros or gym owners, like, okay, look, if you don't have 100 new members lined up at your front door, what do you have? You have time. So you should be going out and hustling your ass off. You should be writing handwritten notes, re-engaging old members that have dropped off. You should be, going in and doing free classes on, posture or at-home exercises or whatever you can do for local clubs and that type of thing. Like, utilize your time. What you shouldn't be doing is scrolling social media and watching YouTube videos and just dicking around thinking, well, I'll just passively wait for the next person to come in, because you're not really confronting the true issue, which is, your own self. You need to look at the mirror and say, the whole reason why this place is empty is because my MO, how I'm operating as a human being, is not attracting these people in, and I'm not doing anything to change that. Right. And so how do you go from being almost an inherently scarcity mode when you're first starting to abundance mode? And it's not a matter of just changing the way you think, because that's really not possible to do without anything to back that up. Mm-hmm. You change by doing, right? You change by doing. It's interesting because you can look at this also from, how we think and how we talk and how we act. Between, say, 0 and 7 years old, I'm going to back up a little bit here in the timeline. Sure. Between 0 and 7 years old, when we're born to about 7, we know from studying childhood development, studying the human brain, we're not really making decisions as young children, right? We're in download mode. We're downloading everything that we observe, and we're testing reactions and that kind of thing, but we're not like making a decision. I'm going to do this or not going to do that. We're kind of testing and downloading things from our parents primarily, or who we're downloading, or whoever we're hanging out with, maybe siblings, but primarily our parents, right? And then after 7, we actually start to, use this human brain that we've been equipped with. We start making, decisions. Well, everything that happens between 0 and 7 affects us almost in perpetuity. A lot of the things that people go to counseling for there are things that happen to them when they were really, really young, and they have this baggage. So how we communicate with our kids is super, super important. Like, from one parent, I would get, the sky's the limit, or your attitude's your altitude, right? And from my other parent, I would get, money doesn't grow on trees, right? So you can kind of start to see the difference on, one is communicating abundance, one is communicating scarcity. So that's kind of a challenge that, I've always had, like these two different forces going on in my head. But between 0 and 7, that belief system, that initial belief system is formed. Mm-hmm. And again, reflective of who we're hanging out with, typically parents. So those beliefs start to dictate our thoughts, our repetitive thoughts of the mind. And the repetitive thoughts are extremely, extremely important. I'm rereading, the classic Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, with our customer success team right now. And I haven't revisited for many years now, mm-hmm. but it's really interesting to go back through it and re-underline things. And, he talks about the importance of these repetitive thoughts, burning desire, and this repetitive thoughts that are running our mind, this subconscious mind. So we have these beliefs that form very early on that lead to these repetitive thoughts in our mind. And these thoughts dictate how we communicate, how we speak, right? And that how we communicate, we want to stay consistent with our thoughts and how we speak. So those dictate our actions. And our actions over time get results, right? Those actions will lead to results, and those results will reinforce a belief system. So you talk about abundance or scarcity, people are typically literally spiraling in either a negative scarcity direction or a positive abundance direction. They're typically not neutral. And it's all coming back to this very early stage. So if you find yourself not taking action, or you find yourself constantly in scarcity mindset, or, like the bill comes for the dinner and there's a bunch of people and you're like, oh gosh, okay, my portion is exactly this to the penny. And, you're just living in scarcity mode. The law of attraction states that you're going to attract more scarcity. Well, why is that a universal law? Well, what is the law of attraction? How can we attract abundance in our life or attract scarcity in our life? Well, if you think about it, if you're communicating in a scarce way and you're acting in a scarce way, what type of results are you going to get? Scarce results, right? And what kind of belief system will those results reinforce? A scarcity belief system. So what's the repetitive thoughts going through my head based on that belief system? A scarce repetitive thoughts, and around and around and around we go. So how do you break the cycle? And this is something that I struggle with because, some of that scarcity early programming and then some really bad decisions I made with finances at a couple different stages in my life where I've ended up completely broke, once completely bankrupt about a decade ago. How do you break free from those? Well, number one, you have to take extreme ownership, extreme accountability. Right now I see it everywhere and it's pervasive. It's an infection. It's the new form of slavery in this country, really. And it's victim mindset. It's being a victim. Because when you're a victim, you are enslaved in as much as the results that are happening in your life have nothing to do with you or your actions. They're all external. They're all external. And that's a really, really dangerous place to be. So accepting that you are exactly where you need to be in life right now, regardless of the result. It may not be where you want to be, but it's where you need to be. And where you are is directly reflective of the decisions that you've made in your life. And as soon as you come to terms with that and accept that, you go, okay, that's good, because now there's something I can do about it. So if I'm in scarcity mode, what are the two parts of the cycle? Beliefs, thoughts, words, actions over time, results that I can actually manipulate or change. Well, one, people say, oh, you do these mantras or whatever, you're going to start believing different. That's total bullshit. You don't just start thinking differently. In my experience, you have to have something to kind of reinforce this. So you start communicating differently. You can start talking differently. Heard about like fake it till you make it? You literally can start communicating differently. So be conscious of when you're using scarcity verbiage in your communication. What's scarcity verbiage look like? Well, my good friend Mark that runs the Enlifted program for coaches, there's a lot of CrossFit coaches that have taken that program too, has a course called Vocabulary. And what I've realized is that people that are in scarcity mindset and victim mindset use a lot of victim terminology in how they communicate. A lot of can'ts and won'ts and shouldn'ts. These are called negations. Well, I can't do that, or I shouldn't do that, or I won't do that. Instead of saying, what am I doing? What am I doing now? What am I going to do? What am I doing? They also use a lot of soft talk. You hear this all the time. I might come over, or I might not, or I should do this stuff for work, or maybe sort of kind of, soft talk, non-committal language. Well, if you really break down negations and non-committal language and projecting into the future negative things, it's all around this victim mindset. So start communicating differently. Be affirmative in your communication. Commit in your communication. So you talk differently and then you act differently. Instead of hitting the snooze bar when the alarm goes off at 6, you actually get up. Because if you can't keep a commitment to yourself, how can you keep a commitment to anybody else? How can you ever grow a business, right? So you start talking differently and you start acting differently. And when you do those two things over time, you're going to get a different result. And when that result starts to challenge your belief that you have always kind of was running your MO that you thought to be true, those beliefs start to change over time. And it's an interesting thing. In the health and wellness fields, you can look at someone, a patient or a client who's obese, right? and they come in and maybe they're starting to use a lot of this victim terminology, like, oh, I've always been overweight and my parents are overweight and it's genetic and blah, 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 blah. We've all heard it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're thinking to yourself, well, look, if you actually did what I tell you to do and you stuck to the diet program, you cleaned up your diet, you got rid of the junk food, you showed up to every workout, you do the workouts, you're faithful with it, right? What is going to happen over time if that person commits to that program?
Yeah, I always say, if somebody comes in and they feel like a loser or they're broken or whatever it is, give them small wins. Just stack up small wins. And then eventually you're sitting on top of a mountain of small wins. And what is somebody who's sitting on top of a mountain of small wins? They're a fucking winner. And that's how you turn it around, for sure.
And it starts to turn around. And then and over 3, 6, 9 months, they get results. And if they're looking for weight loss or looking to be healthy or whatever it is, they start to see that happen. They look in the mirror and they see these results, and those results challenge this belief system that they've had of, oh, I can never lose weight, or I've got bad genetics or whatever. And as that belief system starts to change, guess what? They start to think differently. And then they start to truly talk differently because there's belief behind it, right? And then they try to act it with even more conviction in their actions. And then they get even more better results. And then it changes the belief system even more. And so we turn this whole thing from a negative spiral to a positive spiral, from scarcity and victim to full abundance. So it's a very long answer.
That's great. There's so much there. Listen, there's so much there. I mean, I smile because I've got a 7-month-old on the other side of that door. And as an entrepreneur, all I think about is these first 7 years. All I think about is how fortunate I am to be able to provide her, Lucy, with an environment that I hope will give her a structure that is positive and abundant.
Not hope. You are. You are.
There you go.
Just by being conscious of it.
Are you an NLP guy? Are you a neuro-linguistic
I love NLP. Guy? It's fascinating to me.
I can tell. I can tell. That's so exciting.
Fascinating.
I'd like to have somebody on that can speak more to that. There's so much intent about what you're talking about here. This is not something that just is happening, right? This is something, it's a choice that you're making to wake up every day and to behave a certain way in order to stack up what I call a mountain of wins. Talk to me a little bit about the intention that you have in your life. What is your routine like? How are you putting yourself in a place where you can come out and win every day for you, your family, and your team?
Yeah, this feeds really well into the last question because, in 2009, so, 12 years ago or so,
sure.
I had made some serious bad financial decisions where I had, in 2007, gone all in and purchased 3 different properties, sight unseen, and we're building homes because all of my friends were becoming paper millionaires in real estate. Well, we all know what happened in 2007, 8, and 9. And I had months where I was generating massive amount of income doing what I was doing as a chiropractor. I had, $50,000 months coming in, which was great as a solopreneur. But I had $70,000 a month going out due to all of these stupid decisions I had made. And that lasted for a period of months until I was completely broke and then massively in debt and didn't have the resources to keep it up. And so I made the really challenging decision to file for bankruptcy, even though I had this thriving practice and so many things going for me. And I remember just, really waking up after finally the paperwork was all done and looking in the mirror. And here I am in my early to mid 30s, I guess. And it's supposed to be in the prime of my life. And I'm broke. I'm bankrupt. My credit's gone. I've got no money. And I'm just shaking my head. I'm still in debt because my student loans didn't go away. So I still had $250,000 in student loans. I'm just shaking my head going, how the hell did you get yourself in this situation? I remember being full victim mindset for several days, just fully depressed, the woe is me. And then looking in the mirror one day and going, you know what? You're the one that got yourself in this situation. You're the one that made these decisions. It's nobody else's fault. It's only your fault. And this is a product of decisions that you made and not very good decisions. So I said, okay, if I'm responsible and I'm the one that made decisions that got me here, I can make the decisions to get me out. So all the decisions I've made, let me start reassessing that. And one thing I started doing differently is paying real close attention to what I considered successful entrepreneurs at the time and how they were operating, what was kind of driving their operating system. And listening to them and interviewing them and going to seminars and listening to podcasts, I realized that like 99% of them had a morning routine. And that made a lot of sense to me because I'm going, okay, we always overestimate what we can achieve in the very short term, in a month or a year, but we underestimate what we can get done in a decade, So it was like, I think, how can I have the next decade go a lot better for me, right? And what is a decade? It's just 10 years. And what's a year? It's 4 quarters. And what's a quarter is 3 months. And what's a month is basically 30 days, right? So I knew that if I could affect a day, that would affect a week, affect 4 weeks, affect a month. And then, over a decade, I'd be in a much better position. So go back 12 years and I go, okay, all these guys and gals have morning routines. So really started just like, what's a morning routine? What's effective for people? And I tried everything. And when I say I tried everything, literally everything. If somebody's done it, I've probably done it as well. And I started really recognizing that certain things resonated really well with my body. For instance, morning yoga. I've always had kind of some chronic injuries from football and skiing and motorcycle riding and these kind of things. Like, wow, the yoga is really making a difference in how I feel during the day. Gratitude journaling, really focusing on, what I'm grateful for. I found the 5-minute journal, years and years ago, 3 things that'll help make today great. Three things I'm grateful for, 3 things that'll help make today great. 1 self-affirmation. I realized that, intermittent fasting and not stuffing myself with a big breakfast, but, not eating anything for till noon my body reacted well to that. I reacted really well to kind of making like this keto coffee in the morning. I reacted really well to Wim Hof breathing. I reacted really well to grounding, putting my feet or hands, into the soil, into the dirt or into the sand, getting like that charge of the earth. Where I reacted really well to prayer and meditation. And so I just strung together all these little pieces that worked for me into my morning routine. And I just would come into the office then after starting this in a whole different mental place. Like, wow, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to rock and roll. I'm ready to take on the day. And then I started really figuring out that, wow, I have this power to manifest, and not just me, but everybody does. Most people don't even recognize it. They brush it off as coincidence. So they discount it as, that this is just happenstance. And I started recognizing it's not happenstance. It's not just coincidence. Like, this is happening consistently. I'd wake up in the morning, think of a patient that, that I hadn't seen in 3 or 4 years in my office, and they would show up that day, the next day, or that day. And I would be mind blown. I'd be, oh my God, I was literally just thinking about you this morning and blah, blah, blah. And then it started to happen over and over and over again. So much so that not only when I would think about something, I wouldn't even tell them when I finally saw them that I was thinking about them, because I would just expect them. I knew that they were going to show up. And so this power flight of manifestation and focusing thought and really tuning into these frequencies opened up a whole nother world of possibility for me. And so, knowing that, where I put my attention has a profound impact in the trajectory of my life, being very conscious of input. So I got rid of all television. I'm like, I don't want Fox News or CNN or CNBC dictating not only what I think about, but now they tell you what to think, what to think. Mm-hmm. I don't want the pro-vaxxers or the anti-vaxxers telling me what to think. I don't want anyone like dictating my thoughts. I want my thoughts to be pure and clean and, picking up on the frequencies that I'm attracting and using my deductive reasoning skills and my own, rational thinking to come up with thoughtful conclusions for myself and my family. These other purposes are not serving me whatsoever. They all have agendas at play, whether you're a Trumper or a Bidener, like there's agendas at play everywhere.
Sure.
And you're allowing your mind to get hijacked by those agendas. And so just like going on a full cleanse of all media and all of this garbage and focusing in the frequencies and practicing the morning routine and being in gratitude and going in and really thinking like, how can I make an impact today? How can I serve people to the greatest of my ability? What are my negative passions and sins of the father and things that I need to be very conscious of to avoid those situations, and tuning into that and knowing that, let me not put myself in X, Y, and Z situation, because that typically leads to a bad outcome for me. Right. And it's amazing because it starts to build on itself, and it starts to, put your entire trajectory in the right direction. And things may not happen immediately, but you give it time, and all processes take time. And over time, you start to get a different result, and that result reinforces a different belief in patterns and allows you to start thinking differently. And it all really starts to spiral in a positive way. And I'm a living example of it, because, 10 years later, I'm in a much different place than I was a decade ago.
Today's show is brought to you by High Level CRM. High Level is an all-in-one platform designed to help entrepreneurs grow their businesses without the need for multiple softwares or an IT team. Not only does their easy-to-use software allow you to track and manage your leads throughout each phase of the relationship, but it also allows you to build funnels, track stats, and more. Guys, I sat down and added up the cost of software I was able to replace with just one app, and it was over $1,000 per month. Because this is an all-in-one application, I also save a ton of headaches connecting apps and building automations, and the team at Go High Level does a great job of getting you started quickly and easily when you sign on. I cannot more highly recommend these guys. Right now, Spear and Clover listeners get a free 14-day trial of High Level CRM for themselves. Click the link in our show notes to support the show and get started on your free 14-day trial today. I'm super excited that today's show is brought to you by the Global School of Entrepreneurship. Most practicing entrepreneurs cannot take 2 years away from their growing business to attend a full-time campus-based program or spend every weekend away from family and business for a couple of years. Finally, there's an accredited program specifically designed for you to work on and grow your business while completing your MBA. The GSE MBA complements the needs and schedules of someone actively engaged in an entrepreneurial venture while still covering the accredited curriculum expected from any MBA program. The Global School of Entrepreneurship offers a unique offering called the Mastermind to MBA program. It consists of 10 students who work together in a forum-style cohort and meet every other week for a year. The GSE MBA helps you develop skills in critical thinking and strategic planning. Students also develop competencies in leadership, decision-making, and communication with both employees as well as the important stakeholders in your business. You will be exposed to world-class academics and fascinating guest lecturers. You'll work on your business while working in your business. Students are guided by real-world entrepreneurs with decades of experience starting and scaling businesses just like yours. Best of all, I'm beyond proud to announce that the Global School of Entrepreneurship has agreed to offer one Spear and Clover listener a scholarship to join an upcoming Mastermind to MBA cohort. They are looking for someone just like you to bring a unique perspective to the program, and they are accepting applications right now. To learn more and to apply, simply go to www.gse.mba/spear. That's www.gse.mba/spear. Don't miss this opportunity to level yourself up and surround yourself with other like-minded entrepreneurs just like you. Once again, to apply for the GSE MBA Spear and Clover Scholarship, simply visit www.gse.mba/spear. That's www.gse.mba/spear. Today's show is brought to you by Scaling with Media. I mean, literally, like if it weren't for the folks at Scaling with Media, you would not be getting this. Scaling with Media is a truly revolutionary company for any entrepreneur who wants to reach a larger audience without taking on the years of experience necessary to master the required skills. These guys do it all. From helping you develop your creative plan to editing, sourcing content, copywriting, ads management, and way more. Whether you're looking to launch a YouTube channel or podcast, or you just want to scale your business out to more eyeballs, these guys are the absolute best one-stop shop. But that's not all. Right now, Spear and Clover listeners who sign up for their brand launch package will receive a free, that's right, free professional grade studio kit that I'm actually recording right now on. The studio kit includes a professional microphone, stand, lighting, and headphones, and is worth well over $500. Take action now by going to scalingwithmedia.com/spear and claim your free studio kit. Again, that's scalingwithmedia.com/spear, scalingwithmedia.com/spear. Now back to the show. Yeah, and I think that's obviously evident. The thing that I hear, again, while you're talking is you're pursuing these things that you found over time either give you energy or make you feel better or tune you to a certain frequency that you find to be flypaper for good stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
It attracts these good things. And I love that term. Like I've always said, like our gym is flypaper for cool people. Like we live this virtuous lifestyle. We actually do these fun things and bring folks together. But if you're listening to this and you're from, the Midwest, or, you hear things like yoga and that doesn't sound fun to you, hear things like journaling, it's not necessarily, in my opinion, and you can certainly react, it's not necessarily those specific things. It's that the insight is Aaron is really reflective on what Aaron is successful with and is really reflective on what makes him move. Right? How much time do you spend, or have you spent maybe previously, really digging in and looking in the mirror and understanding who you are as a person and sort of what moves the needle for you?
Yeah, I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars and thousands of hours figuring it out. And, what I do is I take everything that has worked for me and I share it with the team here at LIFEAID. Mm-hmm, and I always tell them, like, look, I don't want anyone here to be following the dogma of Aaron Hinde. Right. But what I do want you to do is try this stuff out at least once. And if you feel like it resonates with you, incorporate it. If it doesn't resonate with you, then that's fine too. You've tried it. But, there are going to be things that work for you, mm-hmm. Whether that's waking up before the sun comes up and going for a walk. I mean, that'd be a great start to the day, or whatever, or drinking a glass of water right when you wake up, when you traditionally haven't done that. Like, find what works for you and your body and your frequency and be in tune with it and see, like, hey, I've been doing this and it sets me off on this kind of negative attitude or negative trajectory. Well, don't do that anymore. Do something different, or I say this to my wife and I get a bad response. Well, don't fucking say that anymore. Say something different. Be kinder, be nicer, like be chivalrous, whatever it is. Like this is just a testing thing. Kids do this all the time. Mm-hmm. I mean, your little child behind that door right there will be testing you in all different ways. Oh, yeah. They'll say things to see how you react. They'll do things. They'll obey, disobey. And it's all about, like, I'm going to test this and I'm going to download what the reaction is. So I know to do more of this or less of this. Like, we're still kind of in that mode, even in adulthood, where we're doing things, but sometimes we don't realize, like, that got a bad result, but I'm going to continue to do it. It makes no sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also you mentioned your team, and I hear you, going through books with your team. That's something that I share. I've also gone through books with my team, and we've done reports, and not so much anymore. But how have you had to change as a leader as you guys have leveled up as entrepreneurs, as you and Orion and the company have scaled? Are there things that you've had to let go of? Are there things that you've had to adopt? And maybe what's that been like for you?
Yeah, great question. The biggest change that's noticeable to me, and there's been a lot of micro changes, so just growing given the circumstances that I'm in. The biggest change, though, is I would always attract a certain type of individual, and I have a lot of alpha male energy, right? And so I communicate in a certain way with a certain mm-hmm. intensity. I can be very passionate, for better or worse, about things. And what I realized as we've attracted a bigger and bigger team and had a more diverse team, which is a good thing. Sure. Not everyone reacts positively to that type of energy. Mm-hmm. So what I realized is to be more in tune with, who am I communicating with? Who am I really trying to connect with and get across with? And maybe I need to be a little more soft in my approach and a little bit more sympathetic in how I approach things, and use the right line of questioning in order to get people to recognize, kind of this end place that we need them to be at, versus me just telling them, hey, this is what we need to do. Mm-hmm. And so that's been a big change. That's been a positive change for me, is being able to change my style a little bit depending on who I'm communicating with or who I want to effectively communicate with.
Mm-hmm. And then as far as the organization, how many folks do you guys have employed with you guys now?
Well, internationally, about 100 now. Yeah.
Wow. Congratulations, man. That's just as a side, you're so happy for you guys and your success. And same to Orion. Have you had to bring on, what I would call like suits or corporate, or are we still very grassroots? Because I feel like as a lifestyle brand, it seems like it's really difficult to make it through a certain threshold and maintain. So I'm fortunate enough, my sister was one of the very early employees at Buy. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Buy.
Yeah, of course.
And for the record, I drove a bread truck for about a month. So I'm really familiar with the root sales kind of like shelf space game. And people were slashing my bags of bread and all that stuff. So it was horrible. But my sister is a unique resource. And I've literally have talked, you guys have come up multiple times when I've had conversations with her about her career. And I know that this retail beverage or just retail in general space is super sharp elbows, super competitive, really, really can be kind of a nasty business. And so as you guys have scaled, have you had to bring on those folks? Like, have you had to bring on, ringers from other corporations? How have you managed to maintain such a clear lifestyle image, which you maintain? I can tell you that from an outside perspective. How have you guys been able to manage to do that?
To the first part of the question, yes, we have had to bring in, kind of professionalize the organization. We just hired a professional chief financial officer where we'd never really had that position before from a publicly traded company. And, we've certain things I do just naturally well, which is more on the sales and marketing and customer success and product development. And certain things Orion does well. Neither of us did accounting very well. And, so looking at where the deficiencies in the organization are, and it's impossible to scale unless you're only as strong as your weakest link type of thing. So we've had to level up. Absolutely. But in doing so, that doesn't mean that everything just becomes corporate, and part of that is you're leveling up out of necessity over time. So it's not, here's our core group. And then, we just doubled in size and we brought in all corporate suits that aren't part of the culture. You need to bring people in and make sure that they're integrated into the culture. And we're pretty intentional, we are intentional about that. And, our onboarding process, our systems, we do our big Christmas party and our retreat every year to make sure everybody gets together and maintains alignment. We do forward-looking vision statements that are read at our company all hands meeting once a week, department meetings where I'm personally, meeting with the entire department of the departments that I work with at least once a week. I meet with the department heads daily and the entire department once a week, and then our all hands. So keeping the lines of communication going, really talking to them and them being immersed into the culture. So instead of them taking us in a kind of negative corporate suit perspective, that we're taking their professionalism and integrating it into our kind of, very family-esque type of culture.
Yeah. And anybody who's tried to do that knows that that's a huge accomplishment. So a lot of the folks that we have come on the show, kind of because of the area that my network has been in, are subscribers to Traction and EOS, which is the Entrepreneur's operating system. Is there a framework that you guys have used, or did you guys build it kind of from scratch, following core values and mission and things like that? Is there a framework you guys that you would point to that somebody listening at home can kind of read a book or follow a certain person or anything like that?
Yeah, I've heard good things about those previous programs, those other programs that you mentioned. We haven't used those particularly. A lot of what we do from kind of a gamifying the business and creating quarterly goals and forward-looking vision statements is based off the Rockefeller habits. And we did hire a consultant, 8 years ago to help put that system together for us, and then have made customized tweaks, over the years to really dial it in for us and our needs. And what we've got right now works really well. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. So what's on the horizon for LIFEAID and for you?
Well, we're launching, which I was drinking this FITAID energy.
Awesome.
Yeah. So our first foray into, really clean energy. Community's been asking us for this for a long time. So, how can we make a product that stays congruent with our core values and, has this responsible caffeine, natural caffeine hit, and has some, low sugar options and all natural sweeteners type of thing. And so this will be launching here shortly in the next month and a half or so. And so super excited about that. We've got some great innovation. The team continues to grow. We're really doing well in Europe, EU, and Australia right now. And we're just heads down, focused on execution. At the end of the day, everyone's like, oh, well, what's your exit strategy or what's your plans? It's like, look, as long as you execute, all doors remain open. One of Covey's principles is begin with the end in mind. So you need to be conscious of that and make sure you're setting up systems for whatever that eventuality may be for your business. But if you're always executing at a high level, the doors remain open. And that's what we're focused on right now. In business, each level, each stage has had its new challenges. When we were a scrappy, brand new startup with not much revenue and not much distribution, we could do all kinds of renegade things and pick at the big boys, and they wouldn't even really pay attention to us. Well, now we're at this mid-stage game, and the mid-stage is the hardest place in beverage, really, because you got the little guys nipping at your heels. You're big enough that the big boys now want to, do some of the tactics that you were talking about in the bread business, right? So you're getting hit from both angles now. And for us, it's really about graduating from mid-level beverage company up with the big boys where we can have a real impact, where we have a real impact and hold these other companies accountable for poisoning our kids for the last 100 years with, crazy amounts of sugar, which is like unbelievable that, we make certain things in this country illegal, yet you can put, 40, 50, 60, 70 grams of sugar inside of a beverage, which we know is contributing to the health crisis in this country. Or irresponsible amounts of caffeine, where companies are putting 350 milligrams of caffeine and they've got, 12 and 14-year-olds drinking 2 or 3 a day. So, we're really excited to really change people's expectations and where this industry is going from a food and beverage perspective.
And that's so evident. I'm not sure if it was you or Orion. At the time when I was in the Barbell Mastermind, you guys were kind of flip-flopping. One would go to one and the other would go to the other. So I'm not sure if you were in the room, but there was a mastermind that we were at, and there was one evening, and we're all in this kind of big theater room, and the folks running it, Mike Bledsoe and Doug, were standing at the front of the room, and they basically said, what's the biggest goal that the people in this room could be responsible for over the next 20 years or 30 years? I don't remember the exact framework. But what we ended up with was sort of making obesity obsolete, making things like type 2 diabetes or adult onset diabetes obsolete. And for what it's worth, from my perspective, because I've stayed in touch with most of the folks that were in that room, and every single one of them, even though that group I don't think that group meets anymore. And I haven't talked to you, and I haven't spoken in a few years. Every one of them I've seen making an impact in that direction. And for what it's worth, I'm watching from a friend and really, really appreciative that you and Orion and the team are out there doing what you guys are doing, because it's just been, it's a different angle than the one that I've taken. And it's just so great to know that you guys are out there doing the right thing and making an impact.
Well, you as well, brother. Got to keep doing God's work and getting people healthy. The body is a temple, and we need to respect it and live to our fullest potential. It's been said, by many philosophers over the years that, when you're healthy, you've got 1,000 problems. When you don't have your health, you only have one, right?
Yeah, and, sure.
And we've seen that play out with, lots of friends and family over the years. So keeping people's body in tip-top shape, keeping their mind sharp, allows us to do good work in the world.
Yeah. There's 2 questions that I ask everybody that comes on the show, and I'll ask them to you now. The first question is, if you had access to unlimited capital, what would you do to profitably grow LIFEAID Beverage?
Unlimited capital. Well, that can be a blessing and a curse in our industry. Most people with unlimited capital, there's many companies that have come, and most of them have gone with unlimited capital. So it tends to be more of a curse because you're not making decisions around profitability. So if it needs to be profitable growth, that would be, I don't know that I would do things much differently than we're doing now. Quite
I've been waiting for that answer. You're the first one. Great answer. Great answer, Aaron. That's exactly the answer that in my mind, that's kind of the answer that when I first started asking it, And to anybody that else has been on the show, your answers have all been great, but you're the first to say that. And I think that would have been my answer, is like, well, if I had such access to it, I don't know if I'd do anything differently. So really great answer. 2 is, if you had to drop everything that you've professionally been doing and start a new business from scratch tomorrow, what do you think that might be?
Well, just you want to be most successful in today's world. I believe it was a Tim Ferriss concept where I originally heard it, but it's something around look at the Pareto principle and do an 80-20 analysis. And, it takes the same amount of time, money, and effort and utility to go from 0 to 80% proficient at, doesn't matter what, let's just say surfing. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then to go from 80 to 96%, the 96th percentile, you have to literally double that time, money, and effort that you put to go from 0 to 80. Then to go from 96 to 99, you have to double again. And then to go from 99 to 99.4 or whatever it is, you need to double again, right? So to become the best of the best of the best in the world at something takes a lot of time, money, and effort. So that's not the most efficient way to really, get success. What Tim outlined was, look at your passions, look at kind of what you're passionate about, what you're already naturally good at, and say, where can I get to the 80 percentile in one aspect? And then where can I look at something that's totally unrelated and get to the 80th percentile in that, and marry those two things together? And then you have something that's truly unique that you can charge a lot of money for, right? So, I have this experience in CPG, consumer packaged goods. I've got this experience in being, a really good, chiropractor. I've got sales and marketing experience. I think that, it puts me in kind of the top 80% there. And then I really love, working with young entrepreneurs. So it would likely be a mashup of those things, kind of looking at it from that perspective and penciling out what that looks like. If I'm just strictly focused on, well, look, I've got no money and I can't rely on any of my old stuff and I need to make some cash to provide from the family, then I'd be looking to Amazon and doing some, white label product on Amazon, creating an Amazon business. I think that's the lowest hanging fruit for someone that's at a 0 to, start knocking down, a couple $100,000 a year in less than a few months. Yeah.
Great answer. Well, thank you. Well, Aaron, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. Tell us where anybody can basically plug anything you got. Where can folks that are listening to this find you?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Our website for the company, LIFEAID, AID, LIFEAIDBevco.com. Our biggest social media handle is at FITAID on Instagram or TikTok. For me personally, just my name on Instagram, I'm most active. Aaron, Aaron Hinde, Hinde, or LinkedIn, Aaron Hinde as well.
Awesome. Well, Aaron, thanks again for coming on, brother. I really appreciate it.
All right, thanks.
All right. Thank you guys so much for watching or listening to the show. If you enjoyed the show, please don't forget to show us some love by liking, rating, and subscribing so we can keep making more and better content. If you'd like to support the show and get a great additional content like exclusive shows and even live group masterminds, please head over to patreon.com/Spear and Clover to become a member of the tribe. If you're interested in learning more about how we help entrepreneurs, visit spearandclover.com or message us on any of our platforms. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon.